Thank you for joining us for this month's episode of Veterans Voices. This month we'll be interviewing U.S. Coast Guard veteran Steve Powers and hearing about veterans profile on Motor Machinist Mate 3rd Class Ralph Filmore. All right, welcome back. So, welcome, Steve. We're excited to have you. This is our first interview with a Coast Guard veteran, so very, very happy to have you here.
Well, thanks, man. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, we appreciate the opportunity to talk.
All right, yeah. So, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you were born and raised?
Yeah, sure. So, I'm originally from Leicester, Massachusetts, and my family moved around a bit as a kid, moved in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. We eventually settled in Oxford, Mass, and I went to high school. And so I went to Oxford High, and I guess when you just kind of get into how I get into the Coast Guard, it wasn't something I planned or thought about very much, in high school. I really wanted to go to college. My folks weren't in a financial position where they were going to send me off to college. So it was kind of one of those situations of thinking, oh, geez, one of these days I'm just going to be a carpenter or electrician or something like that. But then in high school, one of my friends, a bunch of us guys just hang out together at study hall and so forth, and one of the fellows got a brochure from the Coast Guard, and he, for some reason, brought to school, so we're kind of talking about this Coast Guard in study hall one day. And, oh, that seems pretty cool. We got talking about it, kind of exciting, blah, blah. So we did the study hall. We all went out in one of my friend's cars, and we drove to a recruiting office in Worcester, and we all enlisted. So I was like,
That was a quick decision.
yeah. Mom and Dad knew anything about it, right? Yeah. So that was sort of how I got into the Coast Guard. It was still a great decision, and but once you start learning and about what you might be able to do, as far as job and so forth, I knew I wanted to be into electronics side of the things, and electronics technician. And the other four guys. One of the guys became an electronics technician as well. A couple of them became bosun mates, so wound up being on ships. And the third guy was a radio man. He wound up on a ship as well. But that's how I got started.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then for the Coast Guard, where did you go to boot camp? And then any following on?
Yeah. So at the time, the Coast Guard had two basic training camps. One was in Alameda, California, and one was in Cape May, New Jersey. So I went to Cape May, New Jersey in the fall, September 9th. 1974. So it was almost more than 50 years ago now. But it was a 10-week program down there. It was pretty intensive, very physical, a lot of running, a lot of chiefs yelling and screaming at you.
Yeah.
But no, it was very intense. A lot of swimming, life-saving, things like that. Basic boatmanship. Just all other aspects of sea duty, basic stuff, and of course a week in the kitchen, right?
Okay, yeah.
I clean up pots and pans, but so 10 weeks in Cape May, New Jersey, and not everybody made it out of there. So we had a lot of people wash out over some things, just not being able to pass swimming tests or things like that. So it was pretty intensive training, but. I had already conditioned on my enlistment was I was going to go to electronics school, which was so I went off to Governor's Island, New York. There had been a pretty sizable Coast Guard base there, based on New York. 3 cutters were there, some smaller cutters, and families. So a big base housing place. It was now it's a big park, but there's some big, beautiful brick buildings out there. That was the school, electronics school. And Gunner's Mate School, and a few other schools out there, damage control school. But so electronic, what they call electronic A school, which was the basic electronics. You learn how to diagnose problems, basic principles of fixing things, get things operating again. And so it was the classes were 20 individuals per class. And the classes began, I think, maybe every once every 2 weeks or once every 4 weeks. I forgot. So you'd be to class, and there's different segments. You would go through school. I think the training was about 6 months, 7 months, I think. And so as you went through school, you were graded on your work, and at the end of it all, the period in school, you had an opportunity to choose a billet or a place, your next duty station.
Okay.
Some of the guys, depending where you fell, some of the guys went to sea on ships. Some of the guys went to various land-based stations, either small boat stations or in my case, I really was interested in getting involved in the land sea. Talk about that in a second. So I'm fortunate, but I wound up first in my class. So there was 20 billets, and the first choice, well, there was a number of choices. I could have gone to Hawaii, or I could have gone to Japan, a few of the nice places. But I chose Rhodes, Greece.
Okay.
In Rhodes, there was a land sea monitoring station. So what's land sea? So land sea was the navigation system available before there was GPS. So back in those days, the United States Coast Guard operated the worldwide land sea system. So there was station transmitters located all around the Mediterranean, all across the Atlantic Ocean, various islands, and there's many stations up and around Alaska, the North Sea, all across Pacific to Japan and Southeast Asia. And so there are Coast Guard stations, I think not many now, maybe 7 or 8 or 90 Coast Guard stations stationed all over the world, involved in transmitting these land sea signals so that ships and aircraft could navigate. And the other thing with land sea was it was free to use. The public could use the system, but its primary purpose was to provide navigation purpose for naval and Air Force craft, airplanes. The other thing, the land sea was able to the signal was a low frequency signal, so it could go through water. So that was a primary navigation system for our nuclear submarine fleet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was what kind of interesting about that. So those transmitters around, so each chain of transmitters, there had to be stations that monitored the signals, because the signal shape and timing of those signals was extremely important to the critical for accurate navigation. And so I was at a station, my station that was assigned to was Rhodes, Greece, and we monitored the land sea chain in the Mediterranean. There was another land sea monitoring station on Sardinia. So the two of us stations, we watched. We'll say we had equipment that was able to measure the transmitted signals, and we would have to go on the radio or whatnot to these other stations to have them correct their transmitters to bring them more in line with where they should be in terms of timing and so forth. So anyway, after school, the A school, I graduated, then had to go to another school called Land Sea Spin 30 School. And it was the school, this is a Governor's Island, New York, and very small group, and we learned how to maintain and repair a special piece of equipment that we use for monitoring the land sea signals. So something called Spin 30 receiver, which was originally designed for aircraft. So these monitor stations have 3 of these Spin 30 receivers plus other equipment, and it was our job to make sure that stuff operated properly, was able to monitor these transmitters so we could make the proper adjustments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you were in Governor's Island for quite a while at school.
Well, it was pretty quick. I mean, yeah, I think the total time there, because the final school was only about 6 weeks. I think we got there in November, middle of November of 1974, and I graduated and left there around pretty close end of June of 1975.
Okay.
And then, then I got on a flight and I flew to Greece, and found my duty station. Interesting trip, just getting there.
Yeah.
But so anyway, I got to the station, and one nice thing about the Coast Guard is the crews it's more like a family. It's a very small group, like on a large ship or a large military base. There's hundreds or thousands of guys, and you kind of get lost in the crowd, and probably only know a fraction of the people there. The Coast Guard, almost entirely the crews are small, even though the ships are pretty small crews. But our station, like other Coast Guard stations, the crew was pretty tight.
Yeah. So how many people were part of your Marines crew?
Yeah, it was like, I think there was, most of it had was 13 people there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so most times like there was just 12 or 13 of us.
Yeah.
And the time I was, at least when I got there, in July of '75, Greece and Turkey were still at war over Cyprus.
Really?
So yeah, so we were on the beach. Our building, the building we were in, was had been a Italian Navy radio station of some sort during World War II, and so it had been acquired by the U.S. Navy, then turned over to the United States Coast Guard, and so that's where we were worked out of. We didn't have barracks or anything like that. We had to live on a local economy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and because of the war between Greece and Turkey, the two NATO countries at war, and it was a little awkward for the United States government to have, military people in the middle of this war zone, and they needed us there. They couldn't withdraw us and put us on an Air Force base or someplace else. We had to be in that spot. And so what the United States government did, with agreement with Greece and maybe even Turkey, was we had to work in civilian clothes. We weren't allowed to wear uniforms. And we were all issued diplomatic passports and immunity cards and things like that. So they made us part of the State Department mission in Greece.
Okay.
And the island we were on, in addition to our small Coast Guard group, we had the Voice America radio station on Rhodes.
Okay.
That was made of about maybe 15, 16 American families who ran that radio station. So part of our job to at least maintain some security for those people.
Okay.
So they were on a different part of the island, but not too far away. But
yeah.
So that was part of our responsibility to make sure if there had to be evacuated, it was our job to get them out of there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say you lived on the local economy, did you have like an apartment?
Yeah, so the United States was kind enough to give us a little extra money every month.
Yeah.
To rent an apartment and buy food. Most of the food we had to get was on the local economy.
Okay.
It was interesting because the Voice America radio people had a truck that they sent on a ferry up to Athens once a month, and they would load it up with cases of American foods, like cases of American beer and cases of stuff you were familiar with, soups and Franco-American SpaghettiOs and things like that, and other products. So they'll bring that back, and so they had a little store that they ran once every week, like a couple hours on a Thursday. So us Coast Guard people and the Voice America people would go to this little store and buy our American things. But most of the stuff we had to eat, they had to go procure from the local markets. Yeah.
Okay. And did you like that? Was that? That sounds like a unique opportunity.
No, it was interesting. Yeah. So you get we had a great relationship. We're a little village. Our station was a little village, about 4 or 5 miles from the city of Rhodes. Mm-hmm. So we were away from everything else. There was a nice little village there, and people really were friendly. And we used to, so we do the storekeepers, and we got the things we needed.
Yeah.
Buying bread could be an interesting thing because in that culture, people there was no queue. You elbowed your way to the front of the line to get them a loaf of bread. But anyways, and fighting with the local ladies who were over this anyway. So it was interesting. But the fortunate thing about being in Rhodes, it was and still is a tourist area. Mm-hmm. So when I was there was a lot of tourism, Scandinavian folks, people from the British Isles, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, Central Europe. And so us younger guys I got to 19 years old, us younger guys, the nightlife was great. So we got to go out and meet some of the young ladies from different parts of Europe.
Yeah.
And we made some pretty good friends that way.
Yeah.
And, so that was a big advantage of being there.
Yeah, I've been to Rhodes. I think 2011 or 2012.
Whatever.
Yeah. One of the ships I was on pulled in for a couple days.
Oh, nice.
And so yeah, definitely. I remember the hotel on the beach and
Yeah.
the nightlife.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I didn't know that we used to have a presence there. So
Yes. Yep.
pretty interesting.
So I went back there in 2007. Get out at Rhodes. I was there for a few days, and I get out to the station, and it had changed. It's not obviously not a Coast Guard station anymore, but now it's it was a little market. So I walked in, and there was a woman in the store, and I don't think it was any customers. I was walking around looking, and I just happened to look down, and there's some green tiles on the floor, and she goes, "Can I help you?" She says, "Yeah." I said, "See all those different colored green tiles down here?" She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "I put those green tiles down."
Yeah.
She looked at me, I had two heads. She goes,
Yeah.
"Wait a minute, I'm going to get my husband."
Yeah.
So his husband comes back and goes, "Can I help you?" I says, "Well, I used to be stationed here."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, well, the American guys." And then now he understood, he knew.
Yeah.
So we had a nice conversation, and talking about the history, what happened after I left the station. But I went back there. I was back there this past summer,
Okay.
just for a couple of days. And again, went to the Coast Guard building in the same, still a little market. I walked in, and I had my wife with me this time, and we walked around. She goes, "Oh, there's the green tiles." I was telling the story. And as soon as I said it, the lady came over, "You were here a few years ago."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So we reconnected, and we shared pictures and things like that. It was a nice reunion kind of thing. But yeah, it's really nice people there. Really.
Oh
nice
yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just trying to recall some of the things that.
Yeah.
So even today, I got a little Facebook account, so I stay in touch with some of the guys. Like
that's
a
good.
family, so I'm still in touch. Even my commanding officer was there, and we still stay in touch on Facebook. And some of the guys, I've actually gone back to see recently.
Okay.
One guy's in Virginia, one guy's down in Florida, but we stay pretty close.
Yeah, that's good. That's nice to be able to keep in touch.
Yeah. And we haven't been able to find everybody, but it was just a great crew, and we all had a really good time. We worked, it was a lot of work. We worked. There was always two people on duty. So you served. You're on duty for 24 hours. Two guys would share watch, 6 on, 6 off, 6 on, 6 off, and then you would get the next day off, and then the next day after that you did duties like I was electronics technician, so it'd be, breaking equipment down, doing testing, repairing, whatever you had to, and those other maintenance, so the BOSA mates would do whatever they had to do. Mm-hmm. That was kind of like so day in, day out routine. It was just maintain equipment. We had the main thing though, like I said, you'd be sitting on watch, and you'd have to be alert to what's going on with this chain, because the system was accurate about 50 feet. Like GPS now is within a few feet. Mm-hmm. But signals stray a little bit from one transmitter or another one. They'll put ships off course, like hundreds or even thousands of feet off course, which for a ship is not a good thing. Yeah. So that's kind of so it was important for us to do that. Some of the interesting was let me start with this. So my duty there, my original orders was supposed to be there for just 1 year.
Okay.
See, and then what the Coast Guard did then, I'm sure they still do, is they rotate people around. So the deal was you go to a really good station, in the Lorance system, you go to a really good station, and then you spend a year there. Then they send you back to school, Governor's Island, for a refresher course. Then they send you another station, which was not so good. So my 1 year was sort of coming to an end, and I had to fill out what they call a dream sheet and request to where you want to go next, which was whatever you put down was going to just be a dream. So my first was, well, I'm not going to get it, so why not ask for an extension? So I did that, on a 1 year extension and whatever else I put down. And then they, so anyway, sent that in, and a few weeks later, orders came in over to teletype, and lo and behold, this little group, like when somebody's orders were coming in, everybody at the station came in and had to gather around the teletype so you could see what's happening, right? Yeah. So orders come in, and you get the order like, oh, I got my extension.
Oh, wow.
Nobody could believe it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the guys got me another year, right? So I did that. So I'm there for close to another year. And we used to get visitors from our headquarters was at U.S. Embassy in London, and people from Washington would come once in a while. So there was a officer coming. That's all I knew. A commander had me picked up at the airport. So I happened to I wasn't on duty, so someone said, hey, Steve, can you go pick up so-and-so at the airport? So I went to pick up this officer, the company, the truck van, and driving back to the station. The airport was maybe 3 or 4 miles from the station. Driving back from the airport, and this commander was looking at me. He goes, so when did you say your name, my son? I go, Steve Powers. And he goes, nice. That's his face on. He goes, you. I won't say all the words, but it's like you rotten this and that. And I don't know how you did it, but I'm gonna find out, and you're gonna be toast. I'm like trying to drive this van. My face is all red.
Yeah.
And he's really giving it to me. And I'm like, I said, sir, I'm sorry. What did I do? He goes. He starts laughing. He goes, nothing. He started laughing, roaring. He goes, like that dream, you sent them that dream sheet, and it landed on my yeoman's desk. And I was on vacation. The yeoman didn't know what to do with it, so he just approved it. So that's how you get the. So he says, so part of the reason I need to talk to your CEO, but I guess one thing, part of the reason I came was to see you. I said, oh, okay. So we got to the station, went to the CEO's office, and he says, listen, he's not here, but it's not going to make any sense to send him back to WWII. First, they asked me, I'm going to re-enlist or what am I going to do? And I said, well, I really have my heart set on going to college. I want to go, be an engineer. They said, so you're going to get out? Yeah, I'm going to get out. I said, okay. Well, if it doesn't make any sense, send you back to WWII, there won't be any time to send you anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So they said, you want to stay here another year?
Yeah.
So I said, sure. Yeah, why not, right? So I stayed another year. And so now I kind of became the old man, and I'm 22 years old. I was the most experienced guy there. So I spent another year there, and I finally got sent back to base Boston to get discharged. Mm-hmm. I think I spent about a month on the base there, just doing, I think it was a shore patrol kind of a job on base, working with the base police. And then I get out, Coast Guard, right around, it was Labor Day weekend, just a couple days for Labor Day weekend in 1978. And then I was going to head off to college. Mm-hmm. But it was interesting because when I was in Greece, I remember like I knew I wanted to go to college. Didn't know almost anything about it. Didn't know where I wanted to go. Didn't know how to get started. So I wrote a letter to the University of Massachusetts saying, geez, I'd like to go to school there, and I'm interested in engineering. Can you send me some information, this kind of thing? And just mailed that off, and then about a month later, I got this great big yellow envelope, and opened it up. I wasn't sure what I was even looking at. I was like, all this stuff that was like brochures and books and all. Like, I think this is a meal ticket, and this is a dormitory assignment. This is like a class schedule.
Yeah.
Like, so somebody put me into school, and I asked. I'm always thinking. I don't even know this day, but I'm always thinking that they must have been the veterans office there.
Yeah.
That must have got my letter, and they just put me into school. And they say, so I had all this stuff. I went to engineering school, right? So I got home. All I had was my green duffel bag, and went home for a couple of days. And my parents dropped me off at UMass. I had never been there before. I had no idea where I was going. And I remember dropped me off. Like, we found, I think it's the dormitories. We found the dormitory. And in my green Coast Guard duffel bag, headed into the building. Didn't know a single soul. And that's how I got started at school. But,
okay. No. And what did you get your degree in?
Mechanical engineering.
Mechanical, okay. Yeah. And have you done something with mechanical engineering for your career?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So what I did was, so I got So my first position was a company in Westboro, and it was actually, my heart was really electronics, software development, but my degree was mechanical because of the curriculum I was going through. That's okay. So I was pretty well versed in electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and I did a lot of software development. So I worked for a company that did a lot of robotic equipment, and so I was literally designing equipment, designing electronic circuitry, and programming all this stuff. And so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that a lot. And I was there about 6 years, and then I went to a company in Worcester called Walker Magnetics, and they hired me as a vice president of engineering. It's a bit of a worldwide company that offers a few facilities, factories in the United States, Canada, and Europe, South America. So I went to work for them. I had an engineering department work for me, designing industrial magnetic products, lifting magnets, magnetic chucks for holding steel while you ground it, and equipment for separating steel from other waste, trash and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I did that about 14 years. And then I got involved with a guy who had a little business that was helping manufacturing technology companies with federal and state research tax credits. So what's that? So there's a piece of the tax code, federal and about 40 states have a program that allows companies to take a huge tax credit if they can demonstrate that they're conducting qualified research and development. And the problem with it was that it was kind of left to the accountants and CPAs to figure this out, but they couldn't. So most of those people didn't know which, I don't want to say it this way, but didn't know which end of a screwdriver to hold. Yeah. So anyway, we had a little company. I worked for a guy for a short period of time, but eventually I acquired the business, and we hired more engineers. It was mostly engineers, some accounting people, some administrative people. Took this little tiny company we grew into like a national business, helping manufacturers and other technology companies, software development companies, take these sizable research credits, which they use to reinvest in their own businesses. So I did that for about 11 or 12 years, and then retired in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. So I sold that business, but anyway, so I was able to retire.
So it sounds like the Coast Guard and your electronics background was kind of like a building.
That was the springboard, right?
Yeah. So springboard. That's good. Yeah.
I really wanted to, like I said, I really wanted to go to college, and I really had an interest in these kinds of things, and just fate, or what are you going to call it? All the things that sort of line themselves up. But the Coast Guard was an important part of that. But just, I think back and just the discipline part of it. You'll learn, basic training. Develop habits that you still do today. And then, but then it was a lot of fun, challenging, and you kind of learn that I can do anything I put my mind to. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and it's I feel like you have a pretty interesting, story from your time in the service too, being in Greece.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you're able to share that, because I didn't know that there were, we had lower ANSI stations all around, and
some of them were in the jungle, like Saipan and places, islands you've heard about in World War II.
Yep.
I told you about the detail. The officer who came to Rhodes to scold me, then laugh at me. But he said, you were supposed to go to French Frigate Shoals, he said. So if you don't know, French Frigate Shoals is an atoll it's probably Hawaiian Islands, but it's the furthest away. It's about 1,000 miles from Oahu. And it's basically just a landing strip. It's a coral reef. There's a landing strip on it that's so small that the Japanese thought it was an aircraft carrier and bombed at World War II. So they got 25 guys stationed out there, and that's it for a year. So that's where I would have been going. But fortunately, some yeoman decided to approve fire extension and changed my whole life. So it's kind of funny things. So
after your time in the service, did you ever get involved with any veterans organizations or anything?
I'm trying to think. Not so much. Yeah. We were supporters though of, especially when I was in business. We were supporting different veterans groups. We donated a lot of money.
Okay. Yeah.
And actually won. It's funny. We're just trying to think of these things. So our little company won an award for one of the best veterans-owned businesses in Massachusetts.
Oh, that's great.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of support. I used to go to one in business. I used to go to conferences in Washington that were for like maritime marine manufacturers or whatever it was called. And you go to these conferences, it was just wall-to-wall brass. So it was Navy, Coast Guard people, shipbuilders, people who built parts for ships. So these big conferences, like, did give some presentations there. To help, A, to get interest in our business, but A, to get, problem was, and there still is a problem, our Navy and Coast Guard have plans to build a whole lot more ships. What they don't have is shipbuilders.
No.
Right? And they don't have the people, they got people who can build ships, but they don't have the people who, those guys don't have vendors to supply them all the parts they need.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea was to get people interested in helping build parts. But the complaint was we don't have the money. And they couldn't borrow the money. They couldn't borrow enough money to satisfy demand from the Navy and the Coast Guard. And so our pitch was, you guys who are developing these parts for the Navy and the Coast Guard can take this research because the government will give you the money to go procure all this stuff. So we did some of that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Move things along. But yeah, I did meet the Commandant of the Coast Guard, and there was a lot of high brass Navy people at these conferences. You sort of rub elbows with,
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was my little thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Steve. And we'll be taking a short break. All right, welcome back. And for this month's Veterans Profile, we'll be highlighting Ralph Edward Filmore, Motor Machinist Mate 3rd Class, Detachment M, Unit 195. Ralph was born the 9th of April 1914 in Marlborough, Massachusetts, the only son of Roy and Ina Filmore. He spent his early years in Marlborough before moving to Spencer, Massachusetts, following the death of his parents. He eventually made his way to Sellersville and Hanover, Pennsylvania. He worked at the United States Gauge Steel Company and was a member of the Hanover Volunteer Fire Department. He also worked as a brakeman on the railroad. On January 29, 1938, he married Emma Cressman. Ralph enlisted into the Coast Guard the 18th of June 1942 while living in Northborough, Massachusetts, and received his basic training at Training Station Manhattan Beach, New York. He was transferred to the receiving station at Ellis Island, New York in July of 1942, and from there was sent to the 3rd Naval District in the Coast Guard Yard at Curtis Bay, Maryland, before departing for the Pacific Theater in January of 1944. He was promoted to Motor Machinist Mate 3rd Class shortly before departing for the Pacific Theater. He was assigned to Detachment M, Unit 195, and sent to the staging area on Milne Bay, New Guinea, arriving on the 1st of March 1944. On the 3rd of July 1944, while working in a naval supply depot, Ralph was riding in a truck moving supplies when the vehicle stalled. A large spool of wire fell from the vehicle onto Ralph, killing him instantly. He was buried at Military Cemetery No. 2 at Finschhafen, New Guinea, grave 3287. His remains were repatriated to the United States in 1949, and he is buried at Maplewood Cemetery in Marlborough, Massachusetts. And this month we remember Motor Machinist Mate 3rd Class Ralph Filmore. All right, that's all for this month's episode. Thank you, Steve, for coming and joining with us.
It was my pleasure. It's been fun. Yeah.
All right, yeah. And we'll be seeing you next month.